Song Meilin opened her eyes to find herself staring at an unfamiliar ceiling. The ornate wooden beams above her head were painted in deep crimson and gold, the kind of traditional craftsmanship she had only seen in historical dramas. Her head pounded with a dull ache, and when she tried to sit up, her body protested with unfamiliar weakness. This was wrong. Everything was wrong. The last thing she remembered was crossing the street in downtown Seoul, her arms full of grocery bags, when a delivery truck had run the red light. There had been no time to scream, no time to think. Just the horrible screech of brakes and then nothing. But she was not dead. Or perhaps she was, and this was some strange afterlife. She pushed herself upright slowly, her hands trembling as she took in the room around her. It was spacious and elegant, decorated in a style that seemed to blend modern luxury with traditional Korean aesthetics. Silk cushions in jewel tones adorned a low platform bed. A vanity table held expensive cosmetics and jewelry. Through the wide windows, she could see a meticulously maintained garden with a stone pathway winding between carefully pruned trees. Her gaze fell on a mirror across the room, and she gasped. The face staring back at her was not her own. It was beautiful, certainly, with delicate features and porcelain skin, but it belonged to someone else entirely. Someone younger, perhaps in her late 20s. Long black hair fell past her shoulders in soft waves, and her eyes, though wide with shock, were an unusual shade of amber brown. A sudden rush of memories flooded her mind, not her own but belonging to this body. The woman she had become was named Kang Jiwon, and she was the wife of Park Taehyun, the heir to one of Korea's largest pharmaceutical empires. They had been married for 3 years, a union arranged by their families to merge two powerful business dynasties. But the marriage was a prison. Park Taehyun barely acknowledged his wife's existence, spending his nights with his assistant, a woman named Choi Yuna who had been his girlfriend before the arranged marriage. Kang Jiwon had endured it all in silence, playing the role of the dutiful wife while her husband flaunted his affair openly. The household staff pitied her. The tabloids mocked her. And Taehyun's mother treated her like a piece of furniture, useful only for maintaining appearances. The original Kang Jiwon had died just hours ago, an overdose of sleeping pills that everyone would call an accident. Song Meilin could feel the residual despair in every cell of this body, the bone-deep exhaustion of a woman who had given up hope. But Song Meilin was not that woman. She had lived 42 years in her previous life, built a successful career as a financial analyst, survived a difficult divorce, and raised a daughter on her own. She had fought for every scrap of happiness she had ever known, and she was not about to let this second chance slip away in misery. Before she could fully process her situation, the bedroom door swung open without warning. A tall man strode in, his handsome face set in lines of cold indifference. Park Taehyun. Even without the borrowed memories, she would have recognized the arrogance in his bearing, the way he moved through the world as if everything in it existed solely for his convenience. Behind him came a woman in her early 30s, dressed in a crisp white blouse and black skirt that hugged her curves. Choi Yuna wore her hair in a sleek ponytail and carried a tablet computer as if it were a weapon. Her smile was sharp and triumphant as she followed Taehyun into the room. "Finally awake," Taehyun said, his tone suggesting mild annoyance rather than concern for his wife's well-being. "The staff said you fainted yesterday." "How inconvenient." Meilin stared at him, taking in every detail. His suit was custom-tailored, probably Italian. His watch was a limited edition Patek Philippe. Everything about him screamed wealth and privilege, but there was something hollow in his dark eyes, something that spoke of a man who had never had to fight for anything in his life. "Are you just going to sit there?" Yuna interjected, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "We have the charity gala tonight. You need to get ready. Unless you plan to embarrass the Park family again with your fragile health." The original Kang Jiwon would have apologized, would have rushed to reassure them, to make herself small and unobtrusive. Meilin could feel that impulse in the muscle memory of this body, the trained response of a woman who had learned that compliance was the only way to survive. But Meilin was done with that kind of survival. She rose from the bed slowly, drawing herself up to her full height. The borrowed body was several inches shorter than Taehyun, but she met his eyes without flinching. "Get out of my room." The words fell into silence like stones into still water. Taehyun's eyebrows rose in surprise. Yuna's mouth opened in shock. "Excuse me," Taehyun said, his voice taking on a dangerous edge. "I said get out." Meilin kept her voice level, calm. "This is my private space. You have no right to enter without permission, especially not with your mistress in tow." Yuna gasped dramatically, one hand flying to her chest. "How dare you? I am Taehyun's executive assistant. I have every right to be here on business matters." "Business matters." Meilin let out a short laugh that held no humor. "Is that what we are calling it now? How professional. Tell me, does your job description include warming his bed, or is that just a perk?" Taehyun's face darkened with anger. He took a step forward, and for a moment, Meilin thought he might actually strike her. But she held her ground, her amber eyes never leaving his face. She had faced down hostile board members and aggressive clients in her previous life. This spoiled air did not frighten her. "You will watch your tongue," Taehyun said, his voice low and threatening. "I do not know what has gotten into you, but this childish tantrum ends now. You will apologize to Yuna and then you will get dressed for the gala. We leave in 2 hours." "No." The single word seemed to echo in the room. Taehyun stared at her as if she had spoken a foreign language. "I will not apologize to your mistress for stating facts," Meilin continued, moving toward the closet. "I will not attend your gala. And I will not continue this farce of a marriage. I want a divorce." She pulled open the closet doors, scanning the rows of designer clothing. The original Kang Jiwon had exquisite taste, even if she had never been allowed to truly enjoy it. Meilin selected a simple black dress and a pair of comfortable shoes, laying them on the bed. "Divorce?" Yuna laughed shrilly. "You think you can divorce him? Without the Park family you are nothing. Your father's company would collapse within months. You would be a social pariah." "Then I will be a pariah with my dignity intact," Meilin said calmly. She turned to Taehyun. "You have never wanted this marriage. I am offering you freedom. Take it." For a moment, something flickered across Taehyun's face. Confusion, perhaps, or the faintest hint of curiosity. But it was gone quickly, replaced by cold fury. "You do not make demands of me," he said. "You are my wife. You will do as I say." "I was your wife," Meilin corrected. Past tense. "Now I am simply a woman who has wasted 3 years of her life on a man who cannot see what he has. Consider this my notice. I will have my lawyer contact you." She moved toward the bathroom, but Taehyun grabbed her arm, his fingers digging into her flesh hard enough to bruise. The original Kang Jiwon's memories supplied a flash of similar moments, times when frustration had turned to physical intimidation, though never quite crossing the line into outright violence. "Let go of me." Meilin's voice was ice. "You will listen when I speak to you," Taehyun hissed. Meilin looked down at his hand on her arm, then back up at his face. "You have 3 seconds to remove your hand before I scream for the staff. I wonder what the headlines will say tomorrow. Park Taehyun, heir to pharmaceutical empire, assaults wife. I imagine the stock price will take quite a hit." It was a bluff. She had no idea if the staff would come or if they would care. But Taehyun's grip loosened slightly, uncertainty creeping into his expression. "You would not dare," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Try me." They stared at each other for a long moment, a silent battle of wills. Finally, Taehyun released her arm and stepped back, His jaw clenched tight. "You will regret this," he said. "I doubt it," Meilin replied. "The only thing I regret is not doing it sooner." She disappeared into the bathroom and locked the door, her heart pounding in her chest. The borrowed body was shaking, whether from adrenaline or the original Jiwon's lingering fear, she could not tell. She leaned against the marble sink and took several deep breaths, waiting for the trembling to subside. When she emerged 20 minutes later, showered and dressed in the simple black dress, the bedroom was empty. Taehyun and Yuna had left, though she could hear raised voices somewhere else in the vast house. She did not care. Let them rage. Let them plot. She had made her decision. Meilin packed a small overnight bag with essentials, careful to include the original Jiwon's passport and important documents. She had no clear plan beyond getting out of this house, but she had learned long ago that sometimes the first step was simply choosing to move forward, even when the destination was unclear. As she headed toward the door, she caught sight of herself in the mirror again. The face was still unfamiliar, but the expression was her own. Determined, unafraid. Alive in a way the original Kang Jiwon had not been for a very long time. The hallway outside was quiet, the thick carpets muffling her footsteps as she made her way toward the main staircase. The Park family mansion was enormous, a modern architectural marvel built on the slopes of Bukhansan Mountain with panoramic views of Seoul. She had glimpsed it in Jiwon's memories but had never truly appreciated the scale of it until now. She was halfway down the stairs when a voice stopped her. "Leaving so soon, daughter-in-law?" Meilin turned to find Park Soo-young, Taehyun's mother, standing in the doorway of the formal sitting room. She was an elegant woman in her late 50s, her silver hair styled in a perfect bob, her traditional hanbok modified with modern tailoring. Everything about her spoke of old money and older power. "I am no longer your daughter-in-law," Meilin said evenly. "I have asked Taehyun for a divorce." Soo-young's perfectly composed face did not change. "I heard. The entire household heard, I suspect. You made quite a scene." "He made the scene by bringing his mistress into my bedroom. Yuna is his assistant. Yuna is his mistress. Everyone knows it. The staff knows it. The tabloids know it. You certainly know it. The only person who seems invested in pretending otherwise is you." Soo-young studied her for a long moment, her dark eyes sharp and assessing. "You are different today. The Kang Jiwon I know would never speak to me this way. Perhaps you never really knew her at all." A small smile tugged at the corner of Soo-young's lips. "Perhaps not. Sit with me for a moment. I promise no ambush, no lecture. Simply a conversation between two women." Meilin hesitated. Every instinct told her to leave, to put as much distance between herself and this family as possible. But something in Soo-young's expression gave her pause. Curiosity, maybe, or a hint of respect that had not been there before. Against her better judgment, she followed Soo-young into the sitting room. The space was decorated with museum-quality Korean antiques, each piece carefully chosen to display wealth and cultural refinement. Soo-young poured tea from a delicate porcelain pot, the movements practiced and graceful. "My son is a fool," Soo-young said without preamble, handing Meilin a cup. "I raised him to believe the world would bend to his will, and I succeeded too well. He has never had to fight for anything, never had to earn anything. Everything has simply been given to him, including you." Meilin sipped the tea, saying nothing. It was excellent, probably worth more than her monthly salary in her previous life. "When your father approached us with the marriage proposal, I saw an opportunity," Soo-young continued. "The Kang family has excellent connections in the medical research sector. Your grandfather was a pioneer in pharmaceutical development. It was a good match on paper. But not in reality. No. My son treated you like a business acquisition rather than a wife. And you allowed it." Meilin set down her teacup with a sharp click. I am not responsible for his behavior. No, Soo-young agreed. But you are responsible for your own. For 3 years you have played the role of the meek, suffering wife. You have absorbed every slight, every humiliation without protest. And in doing so, you taught him that you were someone who could be dismissed. The words stung because they held a kernel of truth. The original Kang Jiwon had made herself small, had tried to earn love through submission and compliance. Had not worked. Never worked. People can only treat you as poorly as you allow them to, Soo-young said. I see that you have finally learned this lesson. But it is about time. Then you will not fight the divorce. Oh, I will fight it, Soo-young said calmly. The scandal would be significant, and the Park family does not do scandal. But I will not fight you personally. In fact, I find this new version of you quite refreshing. You have fire, spirit. These are qualities I had hoped to see in my daughter-in-law. She set down her own teacup and leaned back in her chair, regarding Meilin with an expression that was almost approving. Here is what I propose, Soo-young said. Give me 6 months. 6 months to see if my son can be taught to appreciate what he has. 6 months to see if this marriage can be salvaged. If at the end of that time you still wish to divorce, I will support you. I will ensure the settlement is generous and that your family's business interests are protected. And in exchange, you continue to be exactly who you were today. Do not retreat back into meekness. Do not allow Taehyun or anyone else in this family to diminish you. Show him what it means to have a partner rather than a possession. Meilin studied the older woman's face, searching for the trap. There had to be one. People like Park Soo-young did not make offers out of kindness. Why? She asked finally. Why would you want me to stay if I am making your son miserable? Because he deserves to be miserable, Soo-young said bluntly. He has had everything handed to him on a silver platter, and it has made him weak, entitled, blind to the value of what he possesses. Perhaps losing you, or nearly losing you, will teach him something valuable. And if it does not, she shrugged elegantly, then you are both better off apart, and I will have the satisfaction of knowing I tried. It was a strange offer, and Meilin did not trust it entirely. But 6 months was not forever. 6 months would give her time to understand this new world, to build connections and resources of her own. 6 months would let her leave on her own terms, with her head held high and her future secure. I have conditions, Meilin said. I would expect nothing less. Name them. Choi Yuna is gone from this house and from the company. I will not tolerate her presence. Soo-young nodded. Agreed. Her transfer can be arranged. I want my own bank account separate from the family accounts. I want financial independence. Also reasonable. I will have the arrangements made. And Taehyun sleeps elsewhere. We maintain separate bedrooms for the duration of these 6 months. That may prove more difficult to explain to the staff and to outside observers, but I can work with it. Anything else? Meilin thought for a moment. I want access to the Park family's business operations. If I'm going to be part of this family, even temporarily, I want to understand how it functions. I want to attend board meetings, review financial reports, meet with department heads. For the first time, Soo-young looked genuinely surprised. You wish to involve yourself in the company? I have a degree in finance and 10 years of experience in corporate analysis, Meilin said, drawing on her previous life's credentials. The lie came easily. There was no way to verify it against Kang Jiwon's actual background. I am not interested in being a decorative wife. If I am going to stay, I will be useful. A slow smile spread across Soo-young's face. Now I see it. Now I understand what has changed. Very well, Kang Jiwon. You have your 6 months, and I will grant your conditions. But know this. If you betray my trust, if you embarrass this family or damage the company's interests, I will destroy you and everything you hold dear. Are we clear? Perfectly. They shook hands across the tea table, two women forging an unlikely alliance. As Meilin left the sitting room and returned to her bedroom, she could not shake the feeling that she had just made a deal with a dragon. Soo-young was dangerous, of that she had no doubt. But dangerous allies were sometimes the most useful kind. Her phone, the original Jiwon's phone, buzzed with a text message. It was from an unknown number. I know what you are planning. Meet me at Moonstone Cafe at 7 p.m. Come alone. There are things you need to know about your husband. Things that could change everything. Meilin stared at the message for a long moment. Another trap. A genuine offer of help. There was no way to know without taking the risk. She glanced at the clock. It was just past 3 in the afternoon. 4 hours to decide whether curiosity was worth the potential danger. In the end, curiosity won. It always did. At precisely 7 o'clock, Meilin walked into Moonstone Cafe, a quiet establishment tucked away in the Bukshan Hanok village. The cafe occupied a renovated traditional Korean house, its modern interior contrasting beautifully with the ancient wooden beams and paper windows. Only a handful of customers sat scattered among the tables, speaking in hushed voices over cups of expensive coffee. A woman in her early 30s sat alone in the corner, her back to the wall and her eyes on the door. She stood when she saw Meilin, gesturing to the empty chair across from her. Thank you for coming, the woman said. She was beautiful in a quiet way, with long dark hair and intelligent eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. She wore a simple gray dress and minimal jewelry. My name is Dr. Han Ji-young. I work at the Park Research Institute. Meilin sat down slowly, her guard up. What do you want from me? To help you, Ji-young said. And to ask for your help in return. But first, you need to understand what kind of family you have married into. She slid a manila folder across the table. Meilin opened it carefully, scanning the documents inside. What she saw made her blood run cold. Financial reports showing millions of won being funneled from the Park pharmaceutical research budget into unmarked accounts. Clinical trial data that had been falsified to hide dangerous side effects of a new medication. Email exchanges between Taehyun and several board members discussing how to suppress negative test results before the drug's approval. This is impossible, Meilin whispered, though even as she said it, she knew it was not. She had seen corporate fraud before in her previous life. She knew what it looked like. This medication, is it on the market? Not yet, Ji-young said. But it will be in 3 months unless someone stops it. The drug is called Memorex. It is supposed to slow the progression of Alzheimer's disease. In the controlled trials, it showed promising results. But in the larger human trials, we discovered serious cardiovascular side effects. Fatal ones in some cases. And Taehyun knows about this. He approved the decision to hide the data. He and several other executives decided that the potential profits outweighed the risks. They planned to release the drug, monitor for problems, and settle any lawsuits quietly. Standard corporate risk management, they called it. Meilin felt sick. She thought of her own grandmother in her previous life, who had suffered from Alzheimer's in her final years. She thought of all the families who would trust the Park pharmaceutical name, who would give this medication to their loved ones, never knowing the danger. Why are you telling me this? Meilin asked. You barely know me. For all you know, I could go straight to Taehyun with this information. Because I have been watching you, Ji-young said quietly. I have watched you for 3 years, being slowly crushed by this family. I watched you shrink and fade until you were barely a shadow. And then today I heard about what happened this morning. How you stood up to Park Taehyun and his mistress. How you demanded a divorce. I realized that maybe, finally, Kang Jiwon had found her spine. She leaned forward, her eyes intense behind her glasses. I cannot stop this alone, Ji-young continued. I have tried. I have reported my concerns to the ethics board, but they are all in Taehyun's pocket. I have gone to the media, but the Park family owns or controls most of the major news outlets. I have documented everything, gathered evidence, built an airtight case. But I need someone with access, someone who can get inside information that even I cannot reach. Someone who can stand against the Park family from within. You need a whistleblower. I need an ally. Someone who knows what is at stake and is willing to fight for what is right, even when it is dangerous. Even when it is costly. Meilin looked down at the documents again, her mind racing. She had been given a second chance at life, dropped into this body and this situation for reasons she could not begin to understand. She could use these 6 months to secure her own future, to build her own wealth and connections, and then walk away clean. That would be the smart play. The safe play. Or she could do something that mattered. She could stop a pharmaceutical company from releasing a dangerous drug. She could save lives, potentially thousands of lives. She could honor the values that had guided her in her previous life, even if it meant putting herself in danger. What exactly would you need from me? Meilin asked. Ji-young's expression softened with relief. Access to Taehyun's private files. Board meeting minutes. Internal communications. Anything that can help establish a pattern of knowing and willful negligence. And when the time comes, I will need you to testify. To stand up publicly and confirm what the Park family has done. That will destroy my marriage. Your marriage is already destroyed. You said so yourself this morning. Meilin could not argue with that. She had demanded a divorce after all. And even if she had not, even if she tried to make this marriage work for Soo-young's 6 months, how could she share a life with a man who was willing to let people die for profit? Give me a way to contact you securely, Meilin said. I will see what I can find. Ji-young wrote down an email address on a napkin, then immediately tore it into pieces and dropped them in her water glass. Memorize it. Use an encrypted email service, never your personal account. Trust no one in that house, not even the staff. And be careful. The Park family has resources you cannot imagine. If they discover what you are doing. I understand the risks. Do you? Ji-young's voice was sharp. People who threaten the Park family have a way of disappearing. Careers ruined, reputations destroyed, sometimes worse. This is not a game, Kang Jiwon. This is war. Then we had better win, Meilin said. She left the cafe as darkness fell over Seoul, the city lights beginning to twinkle in the valleys below. She felt the weight of what she had agreed to settle over her shoulders, heavy and inescapable. But beneath the fear, beneath the uncertainty, there was something else. Purpose, direction, a reason to fight beyond her own survival. When she returned to the Park mansion, the house was quiet. Taehyun had apparently left for his charity gala without her, taking Yuna with him no doubt. The staff kept their distance, unsure how to treat the wife who had suddenly developed a backbone. Meilin went to her room and locked the door. She opened her laptop, the original Jiwon's laptop, and began to explore. The woman had been more organized than Meilin had expected, with neat digital files and meticulous records. There were photos from better times, early in the marriage, when Taehyun had at least made an effort to pretend affection. There were journal entries documenting the slow deterioration of the relationship, the pain of each small betrayal. But there were also financial documents, bank statements, investment portfolios, and, tucked away in a password-protected folder, correspondence between Jiwon and her own family's lawyers, exploring options for divorce. The original Kang Jiwon had been planning to leave. She had been building her own escape route, slowly and carefully. But she had run out of time before she could execute it. Meilin would not make the same mistake. She spent the next 3 hours combing through every file on the computer, making copies of anything that seemed relevant. She found Taehyun's shared family calendar, which gave her his schedule. She found login credentials to various Park family accounts, carelessly saved in browser autofill. She found emails between Jiwon and Soo-young, negotiating the terms of the marriage, discussing financial arrangements and family obligations. It was nearly midnight when she heard footsteps in the hallway outside her room. They paused at her door, and she heard the handle turn. Jiwon. Taehyun's voice was rough, slightly slurred. He had been drinking. Open the door. She said nothing, barely breathing. I know you are in there. We need to talk about this morning. About the things you said. Still nothing. Fine. Be childish. But this conversation is not over. You are still my wife, whether you like it or not. His footsteps retreated down the hall, and Meilin released the breath she had been holding. She waited another hour to make sure he was gone, then returned to her research. By 3 in the morning, she had a rough map of the Park family's business structure. She understood which departments reported to whom, which executives held real power versus ceremonial positions, which board members were loyal to Taehyun versus his mother. It was a start. She set an alarm for 6 and allowed herself a few hours of sleep. Her dreams filled with fragmented images from 2 different lives. The next morning brought a surprise. When she went downstairs for breakfast, she found Soo-young already seated in the dining room, reading a newspaper and sipping coffee. Good morning, the older woman said pleasantly. I trust you slept well. Well enough. Meilin poured herself coffee from the sideboard and selected a modest breakfast of rice, soup, and side dishes. Taehyun mentioned you locked your bedroom door last night. He seemed quite put out by it. He will adjust. Soo-young smiled. I have arranged for you to meet with the head of our pharmaceutical division this afternoon. Dr. Kwon Mi-ho. He oversees all drug development and clinical trials. I thought it would be a good starting point for your integration into the company. Meilin's pulse quickened. Dr. Kwon would have access to the Memorex files, to the clinical trial data. This was exactly the opportunity she needed. That would be very helpful, thank you. I have also had Yuna reassigned to our Beijing office, effective immediately. She left this morning. That was quick. I am efficient when properly motivated. Soo-young folded her newspaper and set it aside. Taehyun is not pleased, of course. He accused me of interfering in his business affairs. I explained that his business affairs are my business affairs, as I still control the majority of voting shares in Park Pharmaceutical. He was not happy, but he will accept it. And the separate bedrooms. I have had the guest suite at the end of the east wing prepared for Taehyun. You may keep the master bedroom. I told the staff it was due to his snoring. She said this with a perfectly straight face, and Meilin had to suppress a smile. You have thought of everything. I have had many years of practice managing this family. Now eat your breakfast. Dr. Kwon is expecting you at 2 o'clock, and it would not do to be late. The Park Pharmaceutical headquarters occupied a gleaming glass tower in the Gangnam district, all modern architecture and cutting-edge design. Meilin arrived promptly at 2, dressed in a conservative navy suit that she found in Jiwon's extensive wardrobe. A receptionist escorted her to the 15th floor, where Dr. Kwon Mi-ho's office overlooked the Han River. He was a man in his late 40s, with graying hair and the careful posture of someone who spent too many hours bent over a microscope. He rose when she entered, extending a hand. Mrs. Park, it is a pleasure to finally meet you properly. Your mother-in-law speaks very highly of your interest in the company. Please call me Jiwon. And thank you for making time for me today. They spent the next hour discussing the pharmaceutical division's current projects. Dr. Kwon was clearly passionate about his work, explaining complex drug interactions and clinical trial methodologies with the enthusiasm of a teacher with a prized student. Meilin asked intelligent questions, drawing on both her previous life's business knowledge and a quick crash course in pharmaceutical terminology she had done that morning. Finally, she steered the conversation toward Memorex. I understand you have a very promising Alzheimer's treatment in final trials, she said casually. That must be exciting work. Something flickered across Dr. Kwon's face. Discomfort perhaps, or caution. Yes, Memorex has shown excellent results in cognitive improvement. We are very hopeful for its approval. Have there been any concerns? Any unexpected complications in the trials? All drugs have side effects, Dr. Kwon said carefully. The question is whether the benefits outweigh the risks. In the case of Memorex, we believe they do. But there have been deaths. The words hung in the air between them. Dr. Kwon's expression went very still. Where did you hear that? I hear many things, Meilin said softly. I am the chairman's wife, Dr. Kwon. People talk around me as if I am furniture. They forget I can listen. He studied her for a long moment, clearly trying to decide how much she actually knew versus how much she was guessing. Finally, he sighed and rubbed his temples. 5 deaths in the extended trial group, he said quietly. All elderly patients with pre-existing cardiovascular conditions. The board determined that the deaths could not be definitively linked to the medication. Could not be definitively linked, or were not convenient to link. Mrs. Park, I do not think this is an appropriate conversation. Dr. Kwon. Meilin leaned forward, holding his gaze. I am not asking as the chairman's wife. I am asking as someone who wants to understand the truth. If this medication is dangerous, if it could harm people, I need to know. He looked at her for a long moment, then stood and walked to his office window, staring out at the city below. I became a doctor to help people, he said finally. To heal, to cure, to ease suffering. When I came to work for Park Pharmaceutical, I believed I was doing that. Developing medications that could change lives, that could give families more time with their loved ones. But somewhere along the way, this company stopped being about healing and started being about profit margins and shareholder value. He turned back to face her. The deaths in the Memorex trial troubled me deeply. I wanted to halt the trials, to investigate further, to understand what was happening. But I was overruled by executives who saw only the potential revenue. Alzheimer's is a massive market. We are talking billions of won in projected sales. What are 5 elderly lives measured against that? That is not your decision to make, Meilin said. And it is not the board's decision. The families who use this medication deserve to know the risks. And if I report my concerns officially, I will be fired. Possibly worse. My career would be over. I have a family, Mrs. Park. A wife and 3 children. I cannot afford to be a martyr. What if you did not have to be alone? What if there were others willing to stand with you? Dr. Kwon shook his head slowly. There is no one who can stand against the Park family and survive. Not in this industry. Not in this country. I'm sorry, but I have already said too much. I would appreciate it if you kept this conversation confidential. Meilin stood, extending her hand. Of course, Dr. Kwon. Thank you for your time and your honesty. It has been very illuminating. As she left the building, she pulled out her phone and typed a quick message to the encrypted email address Ji-young had given her. Met with Dr. Kwon. 5 confirmed deaths in Memorex trials. He is scared but troubled. Possible ally if we can protect him. The reply came within minutes. Good work. I am documenting everything. Keep digging. The next few weeks fell into a careful pattern. Meilin attended board meetings as an observer, sitting quietly in the corner and taking notes. She had lunch with various department heads, asking innocent questions and gathering information. She accompanied Soo-young to social events, playing the role of the dutiful daughter-in-law while listening to the gossip and politics that swirled through Seoul's elite circles. And every night, she locked herself in her room and sent encrypted updates to Ji-young, building their case piece by piece. Taehyun largely ignored her. He was sulking, she realized, unused to being denied anything he wanted. He attended business functions with her when required, playing the role of the loving husband for the cameras, but at home they barely spoke. She found she preferred it that way. The less interaction they had, the easier it was to remember why she was doing this. It was nearly a month into her 6-month agreement when everything changed. She was in the library late one evening, reviewing financial reports on her laptop, when Taehyun appeared in the doorway. He swayed slightly, and she smelled alcohol on his breath. "Working late?" he asked, his words only slightly slurred. "There is a great deal to learn about the company." He walked into the room, closing the door behind him. "You have been very dedicated. My mother is impressed. The board is impressed. Everyone is talking about how the chairman's wife has suddenly become so involved in family business. Is that a problem? I have not decided yet." He sat down in the chair across from her, studying her with bleary eyes. "You have changed, Jiwon. It is like you are a completely different person. Perhaps I am simply becoming who I always should have been. Or perhaps you are planning something. Gathering information. Looking for leverage." His voice hardened. "What are you really doing, wife?" Meilin forced herself to remain calm. "I am trying to understand the business I am supposedly part of. Your mother asked me to become more involved. I am simply honoring her request. My mother has her own agenda. She always does. And I suspect you do too." He leaned forward. "Let me make something very clear. This company is mine. My inheritance, my legacy. I will not allow you or anyone else to interfere with that. Whatever you are planning, whatever game you are playing, it ends now. I am not playing a game. Everyone plays games in this family. The question is whether you are smart enough to win." He stood looming over her. "Stay out of my business, Jiwon. Focus on your charity luncheons and your shopping. Leave the real work to people who understand it." He left before she could respond, slamming the door behind him. Meilin sat very still, her heart racing. He was suspicious. Not certain, not yet, but suspicious enough to warn her off. She needed to be more careful, more subtle. She was about to close her laptop when she noticed something odd in the financial report she had been reviewing. A line item for consulting fees, paid to a shell company she did not recognize. The amounts were substantial, millions of won spread over the last 18 months. She cross-referenced the company name against other documents in her growing database. It appeared in multiple departments, always for consulting services, always for large sums. But when she searched for any actual consulting work, any reports or recommendations or deliverables, she found nothing. Money laundering, perhaps, or bribes, or both. She made a note to investigate further and sent a quick update to Ji-young. This was bigger than just the Memorex scandal. The more she dug, the more corruption she uncovered. The Park family's empire was built on sand, and sooner or later it was going to collapse. She just hoped she could get out before it buried her. The breakthrough came 6 weeks into her investigation. She was invited to attend a closed-door board meeting where the final decision on Memorex would be made. Soo-young had insisted she be present as part of her education in family business. The boardroom was impressive, all dark wood and leather chairs, with a view of Seoul spread out below like a kingdom. 12 executives sat around the massive table, with Taehyun at the head and Soo-young on his right. Meilin took a seat near the back, her notebook open, her expression carefully neutral. Dr. Kwon presented the final clinical trial data. His voice flat and professional. He did not mention the deaths. He did not mention his concerns. He simply read from the prepared report, highlighting the positive cognitive results and downplaying the cardiovascular complications as statistically insignificant. The data supports moving forward with regulatory approval, he concluded. We anticipate market release within 3 months. One of the board members, an older man named Director Yong, raised his hand. What about the adverse event reports? I heard there were some fatalities in the trial group. Taehyun answered before Dr. Kwon could speak. All within expected parameters for the demographic. Elderly patients with multiple comorbidities. The Independent Safety Review Board cleared the medication for continued trials. We have full documentation. And the financial projections? Another director asked. A woman from finance stood and presented slides showing expected revenue, market penetration rates, and profit margins. The numbers were staggering. Memorex could generate over 200 billion won in the first year alone. The vote was swift and unanimous. Memorex would move forward to regulatory approval. Meilin kept her expression blank, her hands steady on her notebook. But inside she was screaming. They had just voted to release a medication they knew could kill people. They had weighed human lives against profit margins and chosen money. After the meeting, she went straight to the bathroom and locked herself in a stall, fighting down nausea. She had known, intellectually, that this was how the system worked. That corporations made these calculations every day. But knowing it and witnessing it were two different things. She steadied herself and pulled out her phone, typing quickly. Board approved Memorex. Moving to regulatory approval. Need to act fast. Ji-young's response came within seconds. Meet me tonight. Same place. 9 p.m. The cafe was quiet when Meilin arrived. Only a few customers scattered among the tables. Ji-young was already there. 2 cups of coffee cooling in front of her. I have enough, Ji-young said without preamble. Financial records, falsified trial data, emails showing knowledge of the risks. I have testimony from 3 other researchers who were pressured to hide results. I have everything we need to go public. When? Tomorrow. I have arranged a press conference. Major news outlets, international media. The Park family cannot suppress all of them, not if we move quickly enough. They will destroy you, Meilin said quietly. I know. But I became a doctor to save lives, not to watch people die for profit. This is bigger than my career. Bigger than both of us. Ji-young reached across the table and took Meilin's hand. I cannot do this without you. I need you there tomorrow, standing beside me, confirming what the Park family has done. Are you ready? Meilin thought about the 6 months she had promised Soo-young. She thought about the alliance they had formed, the tentative trust. This would shatter all of it. Soo-young would see it as a betrayal, and she would be right. But she also thought about the families who would give Memorex to their loved ones. The people who would trust the Park pharmaceutical name, never knowing the danger. The deaths that could be prevented if she found the courage to act. I am ready, she said. The press conference was scheduled for 10 a.m. in a small auditorium near Seoul National University. Ji-young had chosen the location carefully, a public space where the Park family's security could not easily interfere. She had invited reporters from every major news organization, as well as several international outlets. Meilin dressed carefully that morning, choosing a simple white blouse and black pants. She left her wedding ring on the dresser. Whatever happened today, her marriage to Park Taehyun was over. She was halfway out the door when Soo-young appeared in the hallway, blocking her path. Going somewhere? The older woman asked pleasantly. I have an appointment. Cancel it. We need to talk. Meilin's pulse quickened. Did Soo-young know? Had someone tipped her off? It cannot wait. I insist. Soo-young's voice remained pleasant, but there was steel underneath. They stood in silence for a moment, a battle of wills. Finally, Meilin followed Soo-young to the sitting room where they had first made their agreement. I know what you have been doing, Soo-young said once the door was closed. I know about Dr. Han Ji-young. I know about the research you have been gathering. I know about the press conference planned for this morning. Meilin felt the bottom drop out of her stomach. How long have you known? Since the beginning. Did you really think I would give you access to company records without monitoring how you used it? Soo-young poured herself tea, her movements unhurried. I have had people watching Dr. Han for months. She has been a thorn in our side, gathering evidence, building her case. When you started meeting with her, I knew exactly what was happening. Then why did you not stop me? Soo-young took a sip of tea before answering. Because part of me hoped you would succeed. The admission hung in the air between them. I have spent 30 years building the Park family's pharmaceutical empire, Soo-young continued. I have made compromises I am not proud of. I have looked the other way when ethics conflicted with profits. I have become the kind of person I once despised. And I have raised a son who is even worse, who sees people as numbers on a spreadsheet rather than human beings. She set down her teacup carefully. When you came to me that first day, demanding a divorce, showing fire and strength, I saw an opportunity. Not just to teach my son a lesson, but to perhaps correct some of the mistakes I have made. To do something right before it is too late. So you will let me go to the press conference? No. Soo-young's voice was firm. I will go with you. Meilin stared at her in shock. Memorex is dangerous, Soo-young said. I have read the same reports you have. I know what my son and the board have chosen to ignore. If we release that medication, people will die. Cannot allow that. Not anymore. But the company, your family's legacy. My family's legacy will survive. It will be damaged, certainly. There will be investigations, lawsuits, regulatory penalties. But we have weathered scandals before. What we cannot survive is becoming monsters. There has to be a line we will not cross, and this is mine. She stood, smoothing her skirt. Dr. Han is waiting for us. Let us go do something that matters. The press conference was packed, standing room only, cameras everywhere. Ji-young stood at the podium, her hands gripping the edges to keep them from shaking. Meilin stood to her left. And to everyone's shock, Park Soo-young stood to her right. Ji-young spoke first, outlining the evidence they had gathered. She presented the falsified clinical trial data, the hidden death reports, the emails showing corporate knowledge of the risks. She was calm, methodical, devastating. Then Soo-young stepped forward. I am Park Soo-young, chair of the Park Pharmaceutical Board of Directors. I am here today to confirm that everything Dr. Han has presented is true. My company, the company I have spent my life building, has prioritized profit over patient safety. We have hidden critical information about a dangerous medication. And we were prepared to release it to the public, knowing the risks. A murmur ran through the assembled reporters. Cameras flashed. Effective immediately, I am halting all development and testing of Memorex. I am ordering a full independent review of all our current drug trials. And I am calling for an investigation into the executives who approved the suppression of safety data. This includes my own son, Park Taehyun. The questions came rapid fire after that. How long had she known? Why had she allowed it to happen? What would happen to the executives involved? Soo-young answered each question honestly, taking full responsibility for the failures of oversight, promising transparency and accountability. Finally, Meilin stepped forward. I am Kang Jiwon, wife of Park Taehyun. I became involved in this investigation because I believe corporations have a moral obligation to the people they serve. When I discovered what was happening, I could not remain silent. I understand that this will likely end my marriage. I understand that I am betraying the family I married into. But some things are more important than loyalty to a name. Some things are worth fighting for, even when it costs you everything. She looked directly into the cameras. To anyone who has been affected by Park Pharmaceuticals' actions, to anyone who has lost a loved one, to anyone who has been harmed, I am sorry. I am sorry for the culture that allowed this to happen. I am sorry for the systems that prioritized profits over people. And I promise you we will do better. We must do better. The press conference lasted another hour. When it finally ended, Meilin felt drained, hollowed out, exhausted beyond measure. But also lighter somehow, as if a weight she had been carrying had finally been lifted. Ji-young hugged her tightly. You were magnificent. Both of you. Soo-young smiled tiredly. Now comes the hard part. Dealing with the aftermath. The aftermath was brutal. Within hours, Park Pharmaceuticals' stock had dropped 40%. The regulatory authorities announced immediate investigations. Shareholders filed lawsuits. And Taehyun appeared on the evening news. His face purple with rage, denouncing his own mother and wife as traitors. Meilin did not watch. She was busy packing her things, preparing to leave the Park mansion for good. Soo-young had offered her one of the family's smaller properties, a townhouse in Hanamdong, but Meilin had declined. She needed to stand on her own. She had just finished packing when her phone rang. An unknown number. Hello, Mrs. Kang. This is attorney Lee Min-soo. I represent several families who lost loved ones in the Memorex trials. We would like to speak with you about your testimony. And we would like to offer you a position. A position. We are forming a patient advocacy group to push for stronger pharmaceutical regulations and corporate accountability. We need someone who understands the industry from the inside. Someone who has proven they are willing to fight for what is right. Would you be interested? Meilin looked around the bedroom that had been her prison for 3 years. She thought about the original Kang Jiwon, who had died here alone and despairing. She thought about the second chance she had been given, and how she wanted to use it. Yes, she said. I would be very interested. 3 months later, Meilin stood in a small office in Gangnam, looking out at the city spread before her. The Patient Safety Coalition had grown faster than anyone had anticipated, fueled by public outrage over the Memorex scandal. They had already helped pass 2 new regulations requiring greater transparency in clinical trials. They were working on 3 more. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ji-young. Drinks tonight. I have good news about the Dr. Kwon testimony. Dr. Kwon had finally agreed to testify against the Park executives, protected by whistleblower laws that Meilin's coalition had helped strengthen. His testimony had been crucial in the criminal proceedings against Taehyun and several board members. Taehyun himself had been arrested 2 weeks ago, charged with fraud and reckless endangerment. His trial was set for next month. Meilin would probably have to testify. The thought did not frighten her anymore. Her divorce had been finalized the previous week, quietly and without drama. Soo-young had kept her promise, ensuring the settlement was generous and that the Kang family's business interests were protected. They still had lunch occasionally, 2 women who had become unlikely friends through shared purpose. A knock on her office door interrupted her thoughts. She turned to find a man in his early 30s standing in the doorway, holding a manila folder. Mrs. Kang. I am sorry to interrupt. I am Choi Juno, investigative journalist with the Seoul Tribune. I was hoping I could ask you a few questions about pharmaceutical regulation reform. He had kind eyes behind his glasses, and when he smiled, a dimple appeared in his left cheek. Meilin found herself smiling back. Of course. Come in. Would you like some tea? As she prepared tea for them both, she caught sight of her reflection in the window. The face was still Kang Jiwon's, but the expression was purely her own. Confident, purposeful, alive. She had been given a second chance at life, dropped into impossible circumstances, forced to navigate a world of privilege and corruption. She could have used it for personal gain, could have secured her own comfort and walked away. Instead, she had chosen to fight, to stand up, to make a difference. And in doing so, she had found something she had lost somewhere in her previous life. She had found herself. The journalist was asking her a question about their next legislative initiative. Meilin turned to answer him, already thinking 3 steps ahead, planning strategies and building alliances. There was so much work to do, so many wrongs to right. But for the first time in 2 lifetimes, she was exactly where she was meant to be. Outside the window, Seoul glittered in the afternoon sun, full of possibility and promise. And Meilin, no longer just Song Meilin or Kang Jiwon but something entirely her own, smiled and got back to work. The fight was far from over. But she was ready for it. She had always been ready.